Let me go on X and see what's going on. What that?
What a stupid rebrand. 5 years old? You got a phone?
Yeah, that's when I got my iPhone 4S. My first one, anyway.
Add 10 years onto that for me. There's only one video in history I have ever taken down from my channel.
Oh, you think that's... Did you know that when Windows 98 was demonstrated for the first time to the public, guess what it got?
Oh dear, don't tell me that blue screen too.
Yes, it blue screened.
Oh my god!
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the iTunes Fanboy Podcast. So, as always, I am Teddy Maggart from the iTunes Fanboy.
My name is Alpha DeWolf.
And one thing that we did forget, and one update that we did, and one thing that we did notably forget is that remember how we said that Alpha was going to be gone for 3 weeks? Well, as it turns out...
Well, it turns out I wasn't the only one.
Yeah, we were able to record one episode, but we were going to have Cole from the Phone Bin Diver on with just me and Tabby. That was the only episode we got recorded. But unfortunately, Cole's recording corrupted, so we weren't able to... And because we were all wearing headphones, we weren't able to edit that one.
You know, one of these days, I've discovered a trick, and I'm not too sure if you ever want to start implementing this, but... Sorry, guys, allergies are kicking in a little early. I'm not too sure why they're this early. I don't think summer even came this year, if I'm being honest, but... I've discovered a trick with OBS. I found a way to capture my computer's audio, which means I can get it to record not just me, but I can also get it to record you as well.
That would be more work in the editing process, which is why I'm more for the AirPod, for us all wearing AirPods.
I would think it'd actually be less work because that would mean there's no need to sync sound because it's all in one audio recording, and all I need to do is sync video recordings, which that's not too difficult, actually.
Yeah, it isn't. Okay, we might... Obviously, it's too late to start with this episode, but maybe in the next episode we should try that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll do some experimenting around to see how to get that to work in. Or if we wanted to keep videos in sync, we could try to record off of one screen and put a title card or some card in the background, and we have all of our cameras present and such like that. Or I don't know. I'm spitballing ideas here.
Yeah, I'm still more fond of separate video recordings, but that's just me. But
I'm always impatient for you guys to get your recordings up because the later that they actually get sent to me, the less inclined I am to edit them. Which, yeah, I still have to edit them, but yeah.
Had to plug in my phone. Update for TIFP that I guess we should cover at this point is that typically from now on, if one person has to leave the podcast early and we have at least 30 minutes recorded, we're just going to end the entire episode just because that's way more professional than the last episode where Tabby left early.
Yeah, I guess so.
And speaking of, Tabbycat 406 could not join us today.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. We've been gone for a month, and yet can't get the whole crew back together, unfortunately.
That seems to be a constant problem with this podcast.
Very much so. I don't know who to blame more. Probably all of us.
Yeah, because it's not because even though typically I've lucked out where if you guys have both been unavailable, then I've been unavailable too.
Yeah, that's really true. Somehow the only times you're unavailable is when pretty much the rest of us aren't. So it's kind of weird how that works out.
Yeah, to be fair, I specifically designed the podcast recording time around my schedule, so that's probably how come I'm available.
I guess so. Yeah, Thursday last week was a bit of a surprise for me because there was the reason why I wasn't here last week was because my mom and I were invited to open mic in a town 45 minutes away. And I had no clue that they'd be dragging me up on stage and making me play and sing for the bar.
Oh, what songs did you play and sing?
It was a mixture of, I did a couple Tom Petty songs. I did.
Oh, what songs did you do by him?
Wildflowers, Free Falling.
Oh well, that's a great song.
Mm-hmm. I think I did a Beatles one. I'm not too sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm unfortunately not musically talented. I'm unfortunately not good enough at singing to try any open mics.
Well, I must have done something right because I ended up getting a few free root beers from the bartender.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Maybe
so
you're becoming
I did something right.
Maybe you'll become the next pop star.
Oh, not pop. Not pop. I hate pop music so much.
Or, maybe you could make the type of music that you sing pop,
Jeez, I miss recording music. I need to get back into it. It's just, I need my setup to be complete. If I had a set of monitors here at my desk that are dedicated for this desk, so that way I don't constantly have to move these to the keyboard right behind me, it'd be so much easier for me to just, all right, grab the laptop, plug it into a Thunderbolt dock, which I have now, actually. Now I have one. Plug it into the Thunderbolt dock and get started. Get recording. Make some music. But there's still more setup involved, and unfortunately, I'm now delaying those projects with another one. But I miss recording music. I do so much.
So, should we go ahead and get started with our actual topics?
Probably a good idea.
Alright, so our first topic for TIFP is that, or the iTunes Family Podcast, is that iOS 7 Beta 5 has new animations and sounds for AirDrop and Shazam.
I noticed on... Oh gosh. I hate this rebrand. I'm still calling it Twitter. I noticed on Twitter that I saw one clip. Who uploaded it? Somebody took a screen recording of either the volume or the brightness control center widget thing and how it was bouncing like that.
Let me go on X and see what's going on. What
a stupid rebrand.
Oh, that's I hate the new logo almost as much as I hate the name. Just because when it comes to X, there's a lot of other things I think of besides SpaceX. Like the iPhone X or macOS X.
So, sometimes I want to call the app 10 because I'm actually used to calling it 10. I'm used to the Roman numeral. Yeah, I can't find it. Wait, what? No, that's not possible.
What?
I just scrolled past a tweet. Somebody had a great charging session on Electrify America. That's not possible.
Oh, Sammy Fafey was the one that did the screen.
That's it. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was the guy who uploaded that. I think that's pretty cool, though I don't know how exactly that's supposed to be useful in any way. In fact, I would actually think it might run into an inconvenient. But
yeah, I like the
how do you get to the top of it when the top keeps bouncing up?
I think it's similar to so let me grab my iPad here just for some demonstrations and try to find an app that I can show that's not private. Okay, so on my iPad right here I have, ooh, that's very glary. So on my iPad, I don't know how well this is situated so that way for you guys can see that. But you know how when you scroll down on a list, then it bounces back up.
Okay, yeah, I get that. That makes sense.
Yeah, in fact, like I can see the point of that because even Steve Jobs himself, when they were developing the original iPhone back in 2005, a designer showed him that and A designer showed him that the list bounce back option, and Steve Jobs was so impressed the first time he saw it that he told the designer to show it again.
Yeah, don't you remember the audience's reaction when they saw that too?
I don't. I've never watched the keynote in full. I've never watched the full keynote.
I did actually. Well, just to the point where he began introducing the iPhone all the way up to the end of it. But yeah, that audience's reaction to the scrolling thing, that was crazy to see.
Was it bad or good?
No, it was good. Everyone was so impressed. You thought Steve Jobs was impressed? He wasn't the only one.
Steve Jobs sure knew how to impress people.
Oh yeah, he certainly did. He also knew how to make some people angry, but, well,
as he knew
it's
how
basically
to make
how life goes.
Good tech
you can't please everyone.
He knew how to make good tech products and good movies.
Yeah, people's reaction to the scrolling thing, that knowing in hindsight today how we take such a small little detail like that for granted, just seeing the reaction to that was it was so weird to think. Yeah, guys, it's scrolling. Okay, it bounced because you reached the top. What's so impressive about that?
It's just a pretty animation, that's all. But the next topic is that the iPhone 15 Pro is going to have a lower aperture, which as a result will result in more light being let into the phone's camera. So that way, as a result, you'll get slightly better photos. Now, are you going to notice the difference? Probably not, but it'll still be a pretty good subtle improvement.
I would actually think adding more light can... Yeah, if I recall, what's the biggest difference that actually... I do think adding more light does help. It gets more detail into the cameras. I do know that. I know adding more light does help because it's adding more information. The more information you get, the better detail the photo. To me, that makes sense. But it's the other things like...
glare.
48 mega... Yeah, glare is one thing you got to be able to manage. But other details like the megapixel count. I use a 12 megapixel camera on this thing every day, and personally I think the images are fine. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out why 48 megapixel makes a difference other than resolution.
And even back when I owned my 11 Pro Max, and even sometimes my 8 Plus, which both had 12 megapixel cameras, I could still get perfectly great shots of those. Now, obviously, it's not like I don't notice. Now, obviously, I do notice the difference between my 11 Pro Max and the 14 Pro in some cases, where I do notice, okay, the higher megapixel count does help, but it might help a little bit, but 12 megapixel, but you don't really need a higher megapixel count.
Especially in a smartphone.
Yes, because then you have to limit the amount of light that comes in anyway, because they're not giant camera lenses. Oh, wait a second, they are.
Oh, gosh.
One of my classmates...
Apple... I'm still trying to Apple praises the camera's ability to be so professional grade, like cinemas are using them and all that. How come they don't use it to record their events?
That's a bit suspicious.
I'm still trying to figure out. They still use cinema grade cameras to film their events.
I honestly don't know. Though supposedly LG has come out with a solution to ugly camera bumps, which can result in the same quality photos with less of mass, which I really hope gets adopted because that'll be a huge lifesaver.
Don't tell me it's another approach of attaching an actual camera lens to it and then detaching it when you don't need it.
No, I don't know. I don't think it's that kind of solution. That's not a real solution. But iPhone camera bumps are getting so out of hand to the point where one of my classmates, one of the primary reasons why he chooses a Samsung phone over an iPhone is because he doesn't like the big camera bumps on iPhones.
Samsungs are not exactly the smallest either, but
yeah, they're not.
Especially if you go for the Ultra.
In fact, I think Samsungs have even uglier camera bumps in some cases than iPhones.
To my surprise, my mom has an S23. She finally got rid of that A50, but she's on an S23 now, and it's got the individual circles for the cameras, and actually, yeah. I like it. It's all in line. It's symmetrical, aside from the flash being a tad offset, but I personally like it. I'll take that over the... Where did I put it? Because... oh dear. Right here. This mess. There's no organization to this mess. It's not even in a triangle. Excuse me, an equilateral triangle. It's not even in that.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about iPhone camera bumps, as I hate them too.
Yeah. I wish they would... I hate how people say, like, Steve Jobs would never approve of this, but I keep wondering, would he approve of this?
My mom, when she first saw the iPhone 11 series phones, she actually said, mind you, she's not a major tech enthusiast or anything, she stated that Steve Jobs would not approve of this.
Yeah, the guy being focused on design, that's not clean design. Like,
I don't even think...
Didn't Johnny Ive design this right before he left?
Yes, he did.
So was this his way of saying screw you to the company when he left or something? Because his previous design was beautiful. I love it so much.
Maybe somebody... Yeah, that might have been the case. But maybe he has a reason for... As most of Johnny Ive's designs, admittedly, are pretty awesome, are really nice. Like, iOS 7 is the cleanest iOS design to ever exist.
Oh, dude, I want him back at Apple so bad because ever since they came out with new products that weren't designed by Johnny Ive, I haven't been liking their designs.
The one thing that drives me nuts about Apple post Johnny Ive is that iOS design has gotten so bad to the point where it's like it's not the clean flat look that Johnny Ive initially went for with iOS 7, but it's also not the full out fun skeuomorphic look that iOS used to have back when Scott Forstall was designing it.
For me, the one thing I don't like about iOS's current design is all the widgets and their implementation.
I hate those
bad.
too. I don't... If there's anything that I don't think Johnny Ive would approve of, it's the widgets.
Notice that was the update right after he left.
That was the update a year after he left, so yeah.
Yeah, so that might explain how they got there.
I don't think Johnny Ive approved of widgets.
These widgets are not clean. They take up so much space. They don't feel like they belong.
One of the main reasons why I'm not updating my Apple Watch to watchOS 10, alongside the fact that I would also have to update my iPhone, which I don't want to do, is because there's so many widgets on watchOS 10 that just aren't clean, which is why I'm keeping my watch on watchOS 10. And also,
Yeah,
the fact
I'm hearing that people on the beta, they're not enjoying it. They wish they could revert.
Yes, that's one thing that drives me insane, is that it wouldn't be so much of a big issue to update iPhones if you could downgrade them back. But Apple doesn't let people do that, so as a result, we have to remain stuck on. So as a result, you basically have to hope that Apple picks a good firmware that's stable for your phones and tablets.
Yep. Oh, jeez. I really hope I can get another 2 more years out of this.
Yeah, I also want to get another 2 years out of my 14 Pro.
Oh, I'd try to go longer if I'm being honest.
I don't like to go longer than 3 years on my phones after their initial release date, because after 3 years you start to notice, like, okay, the newer phones have these features that my phone doesn't, and at that point you start to feel a little bit behind. You know what I'm saying?
For me, I've started to just not care.
And yes, you cannot. And I can understand why. And to me, it's a lot. And the big reason for me actually not caring is for me caring a little more is because for the longest time, I had to remain stuck on crappy older Apple devices.
That was true. I can't say that probably did affect your buying decisions, because you were using old stuff that was heavily used.
Yeah, because I mean, my phone before my iPhone 14 Pro is my iPhone 11 Pro Max, which was a used phone hand me down from my mom.
I think that lasted shorter than your 8 Plus.
Oh, it only lasted for 11 months.
I wanted to say you didn't have that for long.
No, I did not. That's how bad it was.
Oh, jeez.
Or is,
I guess you really were in need to upgrade.
My 11 Pro Max only worked for the first 6 months of me owning it.
Then you had to switch to exclusively wirelessly charging it.
That's my Midnight Green iPhone 11 Pro Max has that issue. The Gold 11 Pro Max that I used didn't have that problem.
So what was the issue with it again?
It had a bunch of issues. The first issue is that this happened in September when the battery life started going out. Even though the battery claimed to report 88% health, the battery life started going kaput, like to the point where once it got below 50%, even without using it, I could easily drain it down to 16.
Ooh.
And then because of iOS's terrible power management system, as that Tabby talks about quite frequently, it took forever for me to charge that phone back up again, to the point where I actually got worried about if my 11 Pro Max was going to make it till I had enough money to buy my 14 Pro.
Yeah, it makes sense. Meanwhile, I'm still putting my phone back on the charger at 80%.
And my iPhone 11 Pro Max also had some other issues, such as the microphone on it. This issue also
if I recall, you had to switch to a different phone for the time being just to film stuff.
No, I didn't. I didn't have to do that. I was considering it, but I never did. But I actually almost had to switch phones to record stuff on my 11 Pro Max from my Gold 11 Pro Max, which I should get out and talk about it. Because let me get it. Get the iPod stack back. That fell. That's getting way too tall. There we go, that's good enough. So my Gold 11 Pro Max also had some other issues, such as the microphone on it had a weird muffling noise, where it just repeatedly muffled to the point where I could hear a constant weird annoying noise that drove me insane. And the other issue that this phone had was that AirDrop just randomly stopped working. AirDrop randomly went in and out.
Yep.
And I know it's not and I knew it wasn't a software bug because I had already had my phone on iOS 15.4.1 for 2 months when it started doing that.
Yeah, that was weird how it stopped doing that.
Yeah,
so you were in desperate need of the upgrade.
And then my iPhone 8 Plus before that, it was a solid phone, and it was the phone that I used for the longest, being almost 2 years, but 1 3/4 years. Here's just an example of it, but that phone was solid, but the problem was just that, especially in late 2021 when I was using that phone, I was genuinely had so many complaints with the phone, such as the camera on it. Yes, it is a good camera, but especially because my 8 Plus had been dropped, the focus on it was so screwed up to the point where I had to lower my device. I remember one time in August 2020 when I recorded a video outside, and of course I didn't edit my videos much back then, but the video corrupted it didn't corrupt, but it just lost focus randomly. Luckily that was the only time that happened, but on numerous occasions I've had to do quite a lot of fiddling with the devices that I've been showcased on the screen brightness just to get the focus just right with my 8 Plus.
Yeah, I suppose that'd be a major issue. Especially when you use phones for recording YouTube videos.
Yes.
So, yeah, I could see that you were in desperate need of an upgrade to the 14 Pro, but, something that I keep wondering. What are some features in your phone that you'd exactly would say this phone doesn't need? Is there anything in your phone that you find unnecessary?
Not really in terms. The only thing is, maybe the LiDAR sense. The only thing is the LiDAR sensor.
True. I don't think any iPhone needs that, if I'm being honest.
Everything else I think my phone needs.
Because when I was in the process of debating between putting my SIM back in my XS Max or still sticking with this, I kept thinking, all right, here's all the features that I gained with this. How badly do I need them? And it turns out I didn't need them all that badly because my SIM is still in this, though. I've actually been debating putting it back in this, not because I want to use this again, but because there's an application that I need for work and it is stuck on this phone and I can't get it on this one because it drives my boss absolutely mad every time I switch phones. So I'm still bringing this into work, and I just find it a little annoying that I have to carry not one, but 2 phones around with me all the time.
Oh, then you should definitely put the SIM back in your 13 Pro Max in that case, since I'm having to deal. I'm gonna have to go back to probably carrying 2 iPads with me. Luckily, at different times. That? I'm getting an iPad 9 generation from my school, but obviously because I have an Air 5 and because they'll be MDM locked, I'll still have to use my iPad Air 5 for personal use, but for school usage, I'll have to use my iPad 9th generation.
Yeah, I already have to use 2 laptops. Do I really need 2 phones? But to me, that's a bit excessive.
That's That's why I don't ever carry around two phones.
Mm-hmm.
The only
and I'm still trying to figure out, how does Marquez use two phones, for example?
I don't know. One of my
He
classmates...
carries an iPhone and some Android with him all the time, but they both do literally everything he needs them to do, so why does he have two phones?
I don't know. One of my classmates has, well, she has 3 phones, but she used to carry around her 8 Plus as her main phone, but she also had a 10R that I think she still has a 10R that she used whenever her 8 Plus died, because she does not like the gesture system on modern iPhones.
I still meet people who hate the gesture system, and I don't get these people.
Neither do I.
Like, on my vacation in Petoskey, I met up with one of my aunts who recently just purchased the 13 mini. She loves the small phones. But
So do I.
But she didn't like the gesture system. And her biggest complaint with it was she couldn't figure out how to activate multitasking to close all the apps.
I have an all-screen iPad right here. This is just swipe up and close it out. Like that. It's that easy.
She couldn't figure out how to do it. So I eventually showed her 2 ways to do it. One, swipe up and hold, or swipe up and to the right. But after that, she's like, okay, this is fine. Yeah, it's... Like, to me, I don't understand why people want the home button anymore, because it's occupying space where it could be used for a more dynamic purpose. Like, what is the reason why a lot of us all want bigger screens on our devices?
I don't. Well, on my phone, I don't.
No, let me rephrase that. What's the biggest reason why we all want bigger screen-to-body ratios? That I think you'd want. Exactly. And having a physical home button where all it does is hog space that could be utilized for many, many more possibilities. I don't get why people still love the home button.
Apple shouldn't have even released the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus, as they should. I think they should have just made all iPhones all screen from the 10 onwards.
Well, I think it made sense how they had the 8 and the 8 Plus along with the 10, because I think if the only phone they had for sale was the 10, I think that would have been a bit of an issue, because that was $1,000, and that's... How big of a jump was it?
$230.
That's a big jump for somebody who just wants the latest iPhone but doesn't need the fanciest iPhone. So, I think it made sense to carry out the 8 and the 8 Plus.
Yeah, and to be fair, my mom bought an 8 Plus because she still wanted the latest and greatest iPhone, but because the 10 didn't especially when the 10 launched, it didn't have good app support. Poor app support and optimization, my mom got the 8 Plus.
Very true. In fact, I remember that it took them forever to optimize iMovie for the iPhone 10.
So, do you watch the YouTuber Brian Langston?
Never even heard of him.
Oh, you'd really like his channel, as he covers tech and music. And occasionally he's covered cars in the past.
I feel like those are the only videos I made, despite that my last one was a review on the iPad.
But the last video... But back in 2018 he did a video about the iPhone about what's on his phone, and he mentioned how Apple's own app iMovie drove him insane, that he couldn't that iMovie wasn't properly optimized for the iPhone 10.
I know.
It's Apple's own app.
I discovered that from Talos of Tech. He was talking about, I don't know, iPhone 10 6 months later or something like that, but in that video, he brought up how that he was surprised that some apps were taking longer to get optimized for the 10, including Apple's own apps. He was surprised about.
But even Apple's own COVID-19 app that they came out back in March 2020, that didn't even fully support iPadOS.
Oh, I wish I could delete that.
Delete what?
That COVID setting thing.
Oh, I'm sure they'll eventually have to, because now at this point no one really cares whether they have COVID
Technically,
or not.
according to the CDC, the pandemic is over.
Yep. Even they're claiming.
Yeah, I can say this. Shouldn't have to be canceled. I can say that technically, according to the CDC, the COVID pandemic is done. No need to freak out and worry anymore. So, not my words, CDC's. I should be able to say that just fine.
Alrighty. And briefly going back to my story on the fact that I could only use crappy tech for not crappy tech, but older Apple tech for quite a while was before my iPhone 8 Plus, I had my 5S from August 2019 to March 2020. Yes. And you think, and I know I made jokes about you using a 10s Max now, but I don't think technically I should have done. But that wasn't the most fair if you look at me when I was 11 and carrying around a 5S. Oh, and before that,
I think that was the oldest iPhone to still have iOS. Oh wait,
12.
2019 to 2020.
Yeah.
Didn't that thing just lose software support?
Yes, and I was using it on iOS 10 too. And it was 16, and it's 16 gigabytes, and has a bad battery even at the time. Oh, you didn't even know what phone I was using before then. Before then, I was using my 8 gigabyte blue iPhone 5C.
How old were you when you got your first phone?
I was 5, but I never used a phone full time until 2019.
5 years old you got a phone?
Yeah, that's when I got my iPhone 4S. My first one, anyway.
Add like 10 years onto that for me.
Yep, this is my first phone.
Does it still work?
Yes, it does.
Huh.
Yeah, well, most of my old iPhones still work, except for my old 5, which I no longer have. Because that got lost several years ago.
Yeah, I still got that cracked screen on my 5C. That was my first smartphone.
Yeah, I have most of my old tech except for my old iPad 1 I no longer have, since that died a long time ago. And unfortunately, I did have to say goodbye to my first Mac in April, since it's completely dead. Which, again, was an 09 MacBook, which just goes to show you how I'm more focused on new tech now.
Yeah, though. Yeah, you think you're going to hold on to your 14 Pro for 3 years? I'd really try longer, because I'm not too sure. Oh, wait, no, USB-C. That'll definitely get you.
The main reason... Yeah, 3 years I just find... At 3 years at that point, I feel more... I start feeling a little more behind, and I prefer having the latest stuff. Especially because if you know me, you know that when I'm getting a new phone, it's... new devices that are initially mine to start out with. It's not just a hardware upgrade.
Yeah, because you refuse to update the software on it.
I used to, but I've found myself regretting it.
Well, don't you do it on the occasion? Or do you really just leave it as old as possible?
Now I've done it on the occasion in the past, but now, except for my Mac, I don't update anything anymore.
Yeah, so why do you keep the Mac up to date, but the rest of your devices?
I've explained before, I can downgrade my MacBook back.
Mm.
So that's
Yeah, I
not.
suppose so.
Yeah, that's my explanation.
I actually just thought, have you ever made a tutorial on downgrading macOS?
Yeah, I did.
When'd you do that?
April.
Huh, I must have drawn a blank.
Yep, I did that.
I have no recollection of it. Huh.
Yeah, and just some. So, I guess what I'm trying to say, and the point I'm trying to get to is that back in the day, I used to be stuck with older, crappier Apple devices because I had no choice, as I had almost no money. Though now that I do
it's
have
nice
more,
to have money coming in.
though now that I have more money to actually buy new devices to actually buy new Apple devices, why not just do it? Especially because I've been a big Apple enthusiast my whole life, and you have not.
Yeah, I used to be. I mean, I loved the iPods. Me being the music guy, I loved iPods. My parents, despite that, my dad especially, he hates Apple
He
so
had
much.
an iPod.
Even he had an iPod. It doesn't work anymore, but even back in the day when that was how you listened to music, even he had an iPod.
Everybody did. They were the only good MP3 players, and the reason how I know this is that I have one of RCA's competitors, technically GE, but I have one of the competitors right here that my dad had, or has a similar one of. This has a crappy UI. It sucks.
Yeah, I still never figured out how to operate the click wheel iPods.
Maybe you should watch my YouTube videos where I show a click wheel iPod.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. You spun around the wheel, but I never could get my fingers to spin that wheel around. I never figured it out.
Maybe your eczema impacts that.
My eczema didn't develop until later.
Still might have had for quite a while and just didn't know it.
But, yeah, I wish I could find a working iPod, the classic style, the one with the click wheel. I wish I could find one of those around, but you never see them anymore. And all my parents' iPods, they're all dead.
Yeah. You can go to Elite Obsolete or eBay.
Yeah, I could, but I'm still trying to fund another separate project and not iPods. Why buy an iPod when the only thing I want to do is just figure out how to operate the click wheel? I'd never use it.
That is true. All right, I guess we should move on to our next topic since we're very off topic. The next topic is that iPhones are going to start supporting 40-watt wired charging and 20-watt MagSafe charging that will either be coming out on the iPhone 15 or the iPhone 16 series.
I guess it'd be good in a pinch. I'd never use it, most likely.
I think that's good because it is good on a pinch. And it'll finally mean that iPhones can charge up to more on par with Android phones, which I know is something that Tabby Cat 406 would definitely be a fan of.
Yeah, I'm still the guy who slow charges it overnight.
I don't slow charge my phone overnight because I'm not a fan of leaving electrical appliances that aren't designed to be plugged in. And
I don't think they'd be designed to be plugged in like that all the time.
And I also don't sleep near an outlet.
Yeah, I still can't believe the sheer number of outlets in this room. I finally decreased the amount of outlets I'm using. I still, there's one open under here now that I have access to. Now that I've condensed all my stuff down to one power strip. Thank you, Thunderbolt Doc.
I still have all my stuff down. I still have all my stuff on two. I still have 3 different power strips in my room.
Have you ever triggered the breaker because of it?
No, I have 2. I have 1 power strip that has the majority of my stuff plugged in, being my light for behind my desk. I think one of my desktops is plugged into it, alongside maybe my electric pencil sharpener. I don't recall. My litter box. Excuse me. That's what into that too. And alongside my iMac, my '08 iMac, and right now I have my MacBook's power brick plugged into it. And then on the other power strip, I just have my Toshiba desktop plugged into that. Yep. Then on my other power strip, I have a bunch of other various stuff plugged into it, like I think like my Macintosh Plus, my 2 lights for over there, and my fan for over there.
Yep. So I guess that 40-watt charging is it's a pro for someone, not for me.
Yeah. And in case you're wondering why I mentioned the power strip by my bed, I sleep in a different bedroom than I actually do all my YouTube filming in.
You don't sleep in that room?
No, I do not sleep in this room.
Interesting. Suppose that's what happens when you're an only child. You get multiple rooms to yourself.
Yeah.
So does that room become the guest room then?
We never have guests over our house, but I just mostly use this honestly just for YouTube filming most of the time.
Yeah, it'd be nice if I had a whole house to myself to
I don't
film
have
videos
a whole
in.
I don't even have that.
Yeah, I'm still limiting myself to just recording in my room because family members do not like the camera in many other places. So
yeah, I'm actually debating another side project that involves YouTube, but I'm debating whether to do that or not, just because I'm not sure how good the recording setup could be for that.
Hey, editor Alpha DeWolf here. Yeah, we said some stuff, and you guys are not allowed to hear this stuff, and this right here is where the stuff used to be. Alright, now that stuff has been said, back to the show.
there's only one video in history I have ever taken down from my channel, and it was discussing the name of the Mustang Mach-E. I took my video down for it because of the sheer backlash I got from it.
Was it on the Drive channel?
Yep.
I think I remember something about that when I first subscribed.
That is the only video I have ever removed from my channel. Or any of my channels. I've never removed any other videos. That one right there is the only one I have ever removed. So you'd be surprised how big of a following the Mach-E has.
The Mach-E has a decent following, but it just doesn't make a whole lot of practical sense.
Actually, you'd be surprised. It's a fairly practical vehicle. It's just a little on the expensive side, and that's because Ford hasn't figured out how to mass-produce EV technology.
And it's also not supposed to be an SUV.
Yeah, but yeah, I still don't think it should be branded as a Mustang.
I don't think so either, because have you heard of this 1973 oil crisis?
Oh, jeez, I feel like every year has been an oil crisis, because I keep hearing about, gas price shoots up. Well, as I study the history, it's slow. To me, there's nothing special about any particular one.
The 1973 oil crisis was it was one of the biggest ones in history, but at the time it changed the world forever. And you want to know why it changed the world forever?
gas prices surged.
Yes, and so as a result, car companies had to start making more gas efficient cars. And at the time, because the United States was still sort of recovering from World War II, most people in the United States didn't really buy Japanese cars at that point. But Japanese cars like the Honda Civic at that point in the 1970s, when they became more popular alongside Nissan, though they were called something different at the time, and Toyota.
Datsun.
Yeah, Datsun. They were able to come out with gas cars that were 3 times more efficient than typical American cars.
You want to know something that's so broken about the fuel economy regulations here?
What?
So, you'd think, with our regulations being so strict, because they actually are strict, how is it that we've got GM and Ford, they're building these trucks with these not necessarily efficient powertrains compared to our smaller vehicles like sedans or the compact crossovers or whatever those things are. How is it that they still sell more of those? They build more of those, and how do they get away with the terrible fuel economy ratings?
It's because they're like Intel processors. They consume a lot of power, but they also
it's not just that. It's not just that. I kid you not. They are vehicles like the truck-based SUVs, like Chevy Suburban and all the pickup trucks. They're exempted from these restrictions.
Oh my gosh! How stupid!
They are actually exempted from these fuel economy restrictions! Same with safety. You want to know why they keep getting bigger and bigger and the visibility keeps getting worse? The NHTSA, I don't remember the acronym, but the company that tests the safety and all that and gives it ratings, they're exempted from that as well.
Wow.
Yeah, that's disturbing. And I think that really explains why America has now gone go big or go home in the automotive sector, and it's gone to the point where it's gotten too big. But it's not stopping. Like, there was a couple of weeks ago, one of my friends was getting a new car. She wanted a GMC Acadia. The dealership was really trying to push her, go for this Suburban or something like that.
It was the Acadia.
The Acadia is...
Is it a sedan?
No, it's a 3-row crossover.
Ugh, I hate those.
Yeah, same. If I needed a vehicle with 3 rows, I'd get a minivan.
I'd get either an SUV or a minivan.
But yeah, they were trying to push her, go for this big SUV because, well, that's just, yeah, the reason why they build so many of those and they push to sell them is because due to the fact that they don't have to abide by these fuel economy and safety restrictions, they make more money off of them.
That explains a pretty good amount. That explains why a lot of the companies that aren't abandoning SUV or that aren't abandoning sedan. That explains why it's a lot of American automakers that are abandoning sedans more so, because Mercedes, Audi, BMW, I'm pretty sure Volvo, Toyota, Lexus, Hyundai, they're not abandoning sedans, but you know what they all have in common?
They're not exactly selling the best.
But you want to know the other thing they have in common, though, alongside Honda and hence Acura.
Yeah, they're all still mostly selling their SUVs.
Or the other thing that they have in common, which is why they're probably not abandoning sedans.
I'm trying to think.
None of them are in the United States, at least in their headquarters.
Oh, yeah. I'm still surprised. Despite that, I think Tesla is really the only... Oh, wait, no. GM is still technically making the Malibu. They're still making the Chevy Malibu. That's a sedan. I could go to my dealership and buy one brand new off the lot. They're still making that brand new.
Chrysler is still technically making the 300 also.
I heard that they were going to discontinue that at some point.
Let me look that up.
But, yeah, you'd think with those few options, and you'd think Tesla has the Model 3. You'd think that that would sell poorly. It's not. Model 3 is a very popular hit.
Yep, the Chrysler... Oh, man, the Chrysler 300 is going away. That was such an awesome car. I missed that.
That's what I thought.
Okay,
yeah, still, you'd think Tesla Model 3 would not be that good of a seller, especially with the Model Y in existence, but no. Model 3 still makes up a fairly sizable portion of Tesla's income.
Is the Model Y their SUV?
Well, they technically have 2 sedans and 2 SUVs. They have the 3 and the S, those are the sedans, and then the Y and the X, they're SUVs.
I see.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, they have 2 of each, for different size categories and price brackets. So I actually think their lineup as is currently really healthy.
I think it is too, especially with the Tesla Semi being added and eventually the Cybertruck.
Oh my goodness. There's bits of me that loves the Cybertruck, but there's a part of me that's also really annoyed because it's continuing to fuel this you go big or go home truck type thing. Just
my dad isn't, even though my dad doesn't like everybody pushing for SUVs over sedans. My dad's not a big fan of that either. But
my family hates the push for SUVs too. The only reason my mom bought one was because we needed a third row vehicle.
But my dad doesn't mind big pickup trucks quite as much because describing it more in his words, Americans, we are a very mobile people, and so we haul a lot more stuff. So as a result, if we're hauling a lot more stuff, then okay, I can understand the purpose of wanting a bigger pickup truck, since it is common to haul a lot of stuff.
Well, here's something that I discovered while I was in Petoskey. Family members came up and they brought their boat. And what they use to haul it is a 3/4 ton GMC Sierra base model. Like, there's basically no options in it. And I think he bought it either last year or 2 years ago. Brand new.
And did it work well?
Well, towing isn't the issue. But there's one issue, very glaring, concerning issue that I noticed when I went for a ride in it. And he's wanted me to film it so bad, but after my experience riding in it, there's no way I could. There's no visibility out the front. I watched him park that thing.
Oh.
I could have swear he hit a car. You cannot see out the front of that thing.
That's a major problem.
As he was turning into a parking spot, he didn't hit the car, but the car completely disappeared from the view of the hood. The hood just blocked all view of it.
That's why, dude. At least the Tesla Cybertruck is mitigating this issue, sort of, by not having as much space between the hood and the window.
Well, that and the hood is angled down compared to these other trucks that insist It has to be in the shape of a box.
No, it does not.
So, yeah. Now, I compared that to driving my grandparents' Chevy Colorado. That thing's actually manageable. And actually, that thing is a... Is it as capable as a 3/4 ton pickup truck? Oh, hell no. Absolutely not. But it's not incapable either. Right before we went to Petoskey, my grandparents actually came up here to drop some stuff off, and they were towing a trailer with basically exceeding the weight limit capacity. It did fine. And that truck's literally the same size as my dad's full-size pickup from 2002. It goes to show how big trucks have really gotten. So that's something that I keep pushing for. I'm going to keep pushing for too. Our vehicles, like you complain that our phones have gotten too big, I'm going to complain that our vehicles have gotten too big. Because now you can't see out of them.
It's the same reason with It's the same reason why it's like with phones getting too big, which is that you can barely fit them in pockets conveniently to the point where you have to carry them around like iPads. And the reason why I think smartphone addiction has gone up quite a lot in the past few years is because iPhones notably have been getting so big, and phones in general, to the point where people want to spend more time on their phones.
I wouldn't necessarily say that, because I'm still using the biggest phone in. I know many other people who use extremely big screen phones, but they have a healthy relationship with them.
Some people do.
If anything,
some people do, but
my coworker uses a 13 mini, and he's constantly on that.
It's not directly related, but that could be a reason.
Well, I'd also say the people who spend more time on their phone would want a fancier phone with a bigger screen. Like, say the phones were all the same screen size, they'd probably spend more on, say, getting a Pro phone anyways.
Yep.
So that's my thought process. The people who spend more time on their phones, they're more likely to spend more on their phones with the bigger screens. So I think that's why you're drawing that correlation. But I've seen people who have very healthy relationships with their big screen phones. And considering that I keep putting mine on the charger at 80% every day, I guess my relationship has gotten much healthier.
To be fair, you're also not on TikTok, which is one of the big hogs.
Yeah.
Even though at least people are finally starting to get rid of TikTok. The worst app of all time.
There's a ton of bad apps out there, like Threads.
Oh, that's so stupid.
Oh my goodness.
At least people are less toxic on Threads than on TikTok, or so I think. I'm not.
Yeah, but the people who run the platform are actually the toxic ones.
The people who run TikTok aren't very good people either. In fact, they're even worse than Meta, because Meta mostly just keeps the data for themselves to use for advertising.
Except when they don't.
Yeah, but TikTok sells most of the data that they receive to third parties who often don't know who they are or what they're going to do with the data. Just think, especially when they're in China, which is not known for a reputable country here in the United States. Just think.
No.
That's a little scary.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like the background and how those apps are running, and I don't even like what the content on the apps in the first place.
That's why I hate TikTok so much.
Yeah, I've filmed a video. I got to finish editing it, but I filmed a video about my thoughts on the Twitter rebrand.
I avoided making a video on that just because I think I'd say alongside Threads, just because I think I would basically say what everybody else did, which is why we're not covering it on this podcast episode.
Yeah, I know, true, but the things I've ran out of stuff to talk about. I'm scrambling for ideas.
At least we only have one more month until an Apple event.
True, and then after that we get into another drought.
What if there's
goodness,
an
my other
October
channel's
event,
been growing.
though?
Oh yeah.
Ah,
Tech has gotten so dry.
this has honestly been a real rut. Yeah, we are in a bit of a rut with tech, but getting back on good to news is that, remember that there was news on the iPhone 15 Pro potentially being delayed?
Yes. Now that I think of it, yes, I do.
Apple figured out the manufacturing issues with the iPhone 15 Pro's display, and so it's not delayed anymore.
Why do I have a feeling that they made a huge change, like from square Apple Watch design back to rounded? I'm getting a bit nervous they're pulling another one of those.
That's a good assumption.
So maybe we're not getting the semi-rounded frames like that to accommodate a display or something like that. I don't know. Spitballing here, but
If Apple's really in a pinch, they could maybe try to go back to 11 design.
I wish they would. I'll
So
take the
do
11
I.
design over the 12 and everything after that.
So do I.
Because I still hate the square edges on my 13 Pro Max.
So do I on my 14 Pro. And speaking of September event, there's also two more Apple products that Apple might release in September, being the iPad Mini 7 with a new processor and AirPods Pro 3, which all they will bring is a USB-C port.
A welcome change, in my opinion. Though I'm actually, I'm a little confused, or not really confused, but torn between the idea of what chip Apple would put in the next-gen iPad Mini.
I think Apple's going to do either the A6. Apple's probably going to have to do the A16 since if they put the A17 in the iPad Mini, then technically nobody would buy the standard 15 since they have the A16.
Well, actually, here's the other idea that I've been toying around with. These things have an M1 chip in it. And it's not even...
Apple's not going to bring the M1 down to the iPad Mini because the M1 at this point is a 3-year-old processor, which sure, it might be a good processor, but it's still old. Old in the eyes of new tech, and it's...
Maybe it doesn't have to be M1. It could be M2.
Then they would... And why? Then Apple's going to have to update the iPad Air. Though, wait a minute. The iPad Air had the A14 chip still when the iPad Mini got the A15 chip. Oh.
Very true.
Tabby actually did, TabbyCat 406, on his main channel, Tabby Pairs did a video on why the iPad Mini will never get M1.
Yeah, to me, I don't think it's impossible because when they announced this thing with M1, nobody saw that coming. That completely came out of left field. Nobody knew that was going to happen. And yet, we've seen Apple release an iPad Mini with a faster chip than what's in the iPad Air. And who knows? They need another excuse to upgrade the iPad Pros. I know, let's put M2 Pro in it or something like that. Make it real Pro. As if they're not Pro enough.
The next iPad Pro, it appears that Apple's not going to make an M2 Pro iPad Pro.
Yeah, I know there's no leaks to suggest that, but I keep pondering the idea, what would they put in the iPad Mini? Because at this point, we got iPad Airs with M1 chips, whether they're optimized for it or not.
I don't know.
Yeah, quick question. Have you had overheating issues with your iPad Air by any chance?
No, I have not, though. I don't know if you saw my comment on my video or not, but I mostly use my iPad just for basic stuff, which is why.
Yeah, I did
have
read
not
that comment. Well, I use this for pretty much basic, boring stuff too, but
I don't play Flow Free on this iPad though.
I wonder what would happen if you tried it. What would happen if you try it? I want to see if there's some consistency. Because to my knowledge, the overheating thing is a case of my own.
I might have to try that on my own since I used to play Flow Free when I was little.
So, yeah, I just want to see if there's any consistency with this, or if it's literally just my iPad. Because to my knowledge, I know that this thing overheats. It will overheat to the point where it shut itself down once. For playing what you'd think would be a simple game, right?
That even the iPad 1 can run.
Yeah. I mean, I even described my iPad 4 could run it just fine.
Heck, even
my Android tablet.
Heck, even I think the iPhone 3G and iPod Touch 2nd generation can run it, and they have the same processor as the original iPhone.
Yeah. So, you'd think it'd be that easy for an M1 chip that can handle a desktop operating system with ease. It's just so weird to me what that thing's been doing. So, yeah, if you could test out playing a few rounds of Flow Free, see if your iPad gets hot, I'd like to see that. Just to see if there's any consistency or if it's just my case.
Well, now I know a test that I'll have to do tomorrow or sometime alongside a test of maybe I just figured out that I just learned the other day that in order to downgrade my iPhone 4 untethered to iOS 4, I may need OS 10 Yosemite, which a lot of tutorials don't say, so maybe somebody will have to try that. Maybe somebody didn't need to buy a 4th iPhone 4, just have iOS 4.
Yeah, you've got so many of those.
I have 4.
That feels like way more than anybody needs.
I have 1 on each iOS version they came out with. One of my iPhone 4s they didn't really want, though. That just, I got in the big tech lot for Christmas. The iOS 7 4, that I didn't want, but just kind of went in my collection.
Hey, it was iOS 7.
Yeah, and
I have to ask, which design do you prefer? iOS 7 or iOS 6?
It's a tie.
Really?
Yes, and the reason why I call it a tie is because I love the cool 3D animations of iOS 6 because it looks so fun and lively, but at the same time, I don't think iOS 6 like UI would work in today's world. I just think it looks a bit outdated in a sense, and it does, and all that kind of funness kind of reminds me of the 2000s.
Funny, because I believe there was a time where you were pushing for skeuomorphism to come back.
I still think that skeuomorphism coming back isn't a bad idea, and it's still better than the iOS design now. It's a weird hybrid. But at the same time, the clean design of... Just to clarify, iOS 7 now, I don't classify iOS 7... Just to classify, I consider iOS 7 through 10 to be their own era design, iOS 11 through 16 to be their own design, and from the UI changes of iOS 17, iOS 17 is its own design. But I prefer the iOS 7 through 10 design the best because it's so clean and it looks... And even though it doesn't look modern just because of the way that Apple integrated it, it looked, especially with all of Apple's marketing material at the time, it looked so clean and simple and lively to the point when whenever I look at Apple's old pages or even when I use OS 10 Yosemite on my 2014 MacBook Air, which is why I haven't updated that thing yet, even though I really should, is because I love that era of Apple because not only was that around the time, not only was that an era that I remember very fondly, have very fond memories of, despite living that era mostly with my iPad 3 and later on my Air 1 and my iPod Touch 5, is that era of iOS is just so clean. It's minimalistic and it's truly just something interesting.
Yep. Do you have any other news topics?
Yes. So the iPhone 15 Pro action button is going to be able to program the accessibility settings, shortcuts, which will mean you'll be able to do anything, program the action button to be able to trigger anything. Silent mode, which is the mute switch that's replacing currently does anyway. The camera.
You know, I'm actually wondering how the people with home button iPhones. How many do you think this might finally compel them to upgrade if it turns into a home button?
And for maybe, but it's currently not a home button without doing some manipulation, so I doubt it. Camera, which a lot of old school phones have, so I'm very thrilled to see that come back, as my mom always wanted a camera button on her iPhone, so at least that's back. Flashlight, focus, magnifier, translate, and voice memos.
The list probably goes on and on and on.
Know that those are the only functions that Apple's going to include by default. So
I would
no
think
home button, unfortunately.
there should be third-party options that you can make.
Yeah, you can do that through Siri shortcuts.
Yeah, that's what I would think. So, truly, the possibilities are endless. But
Yep, just like with BackTap.
I think I'd still prefer Ringer, because if you think that it's a switch we rarely even use, but something that I use all the time, actually, and something I hear many, many, many other iPhone users use all the time.
I rarely ever use the mute switch.
I'm mad that OnePlus got rid of it.
Did they replace it with something else or not?
I don't think they did.
Oh, that's a major flaw.
Yeah.
At least with the 15 Pro getting rid of the mute switch is that you'll still be able to technically put it in silent. It'll still serve the same functionality, but it'll just serve extra functionality. Like a flying car, for example, which if the US government actually allows it to be flown more, which will allow you to just drive on the road like normal, but you'll also be able to fly everywhere.
Well, due to all these carbon regulations and all that, I actually think that those restrictions would not allow it to be possible. Because not only do you need energy to make it move forward or backward, now you need energy to keep it in the air.
That's why I said government regulations. If the government let go of their regulations on that kind of stuff.
Well, apparently they let them go for trucks and SUVs.
Yeah, but if they can let them go for trucks and SUVs, then they should be able to let this go for flying cars. Since there's a company that's making flying cars right now, that they're now available for pre-order. But unfortunately, you can only fly over them directly over a road, which is due to their stupid regulations, which drive me crazy. Since that's literally limiting the use of a flying car.
Yeah. Though, I think I'd still prefer transportation on the ground.
I understand the purpose. I get why I would want a flying car, because that way, just think, with a flying car, you can not only go faster with a flying car, which theoretically means you can go more places, but you also don't have to worry about roads, which are very expensive to maintain, as we know. People just could come up with their own routes, and we would have no more need for roads, which as a result would save a lot of money.
True. Yeah, finally, my road's getting redone. It's been way too long. It's needed it for years, but they're finally redoing it.
And yet my city still has trucks going right through the downtown of it.
Oh, we still got big trucks coming through that road too, despite that the road work's going on.
Is it a necessary pass-through road or not?
Well, it's either that or the only other option is that twisty road that you've seen in my videos where I drive down it.
That makes sense then, because the only other way that you can get to, that trucks can go without going through downtown is to go a really twisty road after getting off my local interstate.
Though I'm still trying to figure out, why did that one trucker decide to go that way during a snowstorm?
It probably had somewhere to go, and especially if you can't really see the road, then it's better to stay on a straight road than a twisty road.
Yeah, well, I found him in the ditch on the twisty road. In fact, he was blocking it. His trailer jackknifed, and he blocked the whole road. I had to turn back. And I had to go that way because... Why did I have to go that way? Something was going on with the main road here. What? I don't remember. But basically, I couldn't go to work that day because traffic was blocked. I couldn't get there.
At least you didn't have to go to work.
Yeah. that was the one time Red Fox had absolutely zero grip. Yeah, guys, you don't need a car to have all-wheel drive to drive in the snow. You can do it in front-wheel drive as long as you have a really good set of snow tires. I should know this because I drive in conditions like that all the time.
Doesn't your... It'll be interesting to see how... I imagine it'll be interesting for you to see how your new Buick LaCrosse does in the snow once winter comes.
Well,
it probably has all-wheel drive.
Nope, it's front wheel.
It's from 2019 and doesn't even have all-wheel drive?
All-wheel drive is optional on that vehicle, but they reserve that option for the highest-end model.
Oh, jeez, that's baloney.
Again, it's not necessary, though.
Yeah. It still is a feature that's not that much to implement. They should just implement.
Well, actually, there is a big disadvantage to going with all-wheel drive, and that's if me being me, caring about efficiency of my vehicle, adding all-wheel drive adds weight to the vehicle, and your vehicle will get worse gas mileage.
Okay, I understand that, but of course... Oh, never mind.
So... That is one reason why I'd recommend against it, especially because, for the most part, you're never even going to take advantage of it, because as long as... It's not really the wheels that you power unless... The only time all-wheel drive really matters is where the weight of the vehicle is. But for the most part, all the weight is up front. So as long as you have decent tires, all-wheel drive's not really going to help you that much unless you have no weight up front and it's all in the back. My dad drives his truck in two-wheel drive in the winter all the time. So, yeah, it's... You don't need all-wheel drive. You just need decent tires. Though I am curious to see how my car does accelerate in the winter because, whew, even... my car evidently has a lot more power than I thought. I'm spinning the wheels during certain accelerations.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I don't think I've even managed to spin the wheels on my dad's M6 on the few occasions that I've driven it. And mind you, that's a professional grade sports car professional race car. That's the fastest.
Well, then again, the tires, my summer tires are bald on Stardust, so they're only good enough basically until the end of the summer. That's why I'm still running them, but next year I'm probably going to want to invest in a new set of summer tires for that thing. But yeah, that car has enough power to spin its wheels.
That's pretty crazy because on my dad's BMW M6, which is literally a race car, I've never noticed any wheel spinning on that thing when I've accelerated. Though
How
I've
heavy would you
mostly-
say your foot is?
What?
How heavy would you say your foot is?
I usually keep it decently light.
That might explain it.
I never go heavy, since if I know if I went heavy on my dad's M6, I could easily be flying by at 100 miles an hour.
Oh yeah, true. But
Because it's the fastest
For-
car
for
out
me,
there.
I have
That's
to
not
do it.
Tesla.
yeah, for me, I have to do it because of the hilly area I live in. You have to start in uphill position, so because of that, I naturally have a heavy foot.
I don't. I usually use a heavy foot when I go. I use a heavy foot when I go uphill because I do live in a hilly area too. But it's not naturally heavy.
Yeah, though there's still one spot in town where it doesn't matter how light I tap that thing, the stardust will still spin those wheels. It's funny to me.
Why don't you just let your foot go off the gas pedal entirely?
Because that intersection is merging onto a highway. And it's pretty busy.
Oh.
So because of that, once you go, you gotta go because you got traffic coming up right behind you. So,
Oh, I'm used to mostly stoplights in my area.
have you been on the interstate?
I haven't driven on there yet, but yes, I've been on my interstate.
Okay.
I've been on divided highway. I've been on divided highways before though, or driven on them.
Yeah. Man, I wish we had more interstates across the UP. Like, did you watch my road trip video by any chance?
Yes.
You saw how little interstate there is going across the UP.
Hey, editor Alpha DeWolf here. Yeah, we said some stuff, and you guys are not allowed to hear this stuff. And this right here is where the stuff used to be. All right. Now that stuff has been said, back to the show.
Alright, other than the fact that we were probably having to record cut out nearly 20 minutes of our podcast.
Might end up being closer to 40 because of that other discussion we've been having. I find it interesting, though.
So, we have another big tech topic to talk about, which is that this is a big news topic that is very exciting.
All right, list it.
Google is finally going to be downranking apps in the Play Store that don't fully support tablets.
Really?
Yep. Meaning that Android tablets might actually have a shot. Sure, it might be 13 years too late, but they might have a shot.
That's actually a decent decision.
Maybe the Pixel tablet is going to be Google's final attempt at a tablet. That'll stick.
Well, this time it's not running Chrome OS and doesn't require internet. I still can't believe they thought Chrome OS would sell on a tablet.
A lot of Chromebooks do fall into tablets, so I get it.
Well, how many people use them in tablet mode?
I rarely did when I was using my Chromebook as my main computer.
Software's not really optimized for it.
Yeah, it really is not.
Same with Windows. I know so many people who have touchscreens on their Windows laptops, they never use them.
That's why whenever my mom goes to buy... That's why even though my mom was a Windows user for so many years, she always wanted a computer without a touchscreen. Because she didn't want... First, she did not only didn't want my cats to touch touchscreen, but she also didn't think the touchscreens had much of a use and that she preferred trackpads.
One of my friends has all-in-one desktop with a touchscreen.
So do I.
All right. Yeah. Never gets used.
Same thing. I don't really use the touchscreen on my Toshiba, even when I do use it.
I don't understand the use case for it on a desktop operating system, because the reason why you'd want an operating system like that is because you're looking for precision. You're not going to get that from your finger.
That's why Steve Jobs didn't like a touchscreen Mac.
I still don't like the idea of it. Yep, I've bought laptops that are no touchscreen, and I've never been upset about it.
My dad actually does care about whether his laptops have touchscreens or not.
Does he ever use it?
I think he might, but not the most often. Though, of course, if my dad's going to go to a Mac, my dad ever decides to finally switch to his MacBook, he's not going to get that anymore anyway.
What's it going to take? His laptop blue screening permanently or something?
I don't know what it's going to take to get my dad to switch to his MacBook. Because he doesn't have to deal with the stability issues of Windows 11 since he's on Windows 10.
I don't think that makes much of a difference.
So he doesn't have to. He still doesn't have to deal with Windows Modern Standby, which I do think if my dad did have to use, which I think my dad would absolutely hate, because he often leaves his devices idle for long periods of time.
You're aware it is a feature in Windows 10, right?
Yeah, but it didn't get bad in Windows 10.
But no, the reason why it wasn't that bad is because some laptops still had the option to use the previous system. Now they don't, because they're cheaping out on it.
Yeah, my dad might not have the option since he uses... My dad still may have the option since he uses a $700, an initially $700 Lenovo ThinkPad of some sorts.
Yeah, I hate Modern Standby. It is terrible. The thing is, I can't even figure out how to shut it off.
It's like TabbyCat 406 with his issues with the iOS power management system.
On a much more massive scale.
To the point where it's prohibiting you from doing your work.
There are so many things about Windows that just prohibit me from doing my work. It's even gotten to the point where my coworker has gotten frustrated with it.
Oh, you think that's bad? So in one of my classes at my school, I'm taking a computer class which requires us to use Dell desktops.
Oh dear.
That are on Windows 10. And so we were just doing I was just doing something simple, such as collapsing the home bar in Word. I don't know what it's called, or the top bar in Word. And it shut down the entire computer.
Does that compare to my essay situation?
I think it does.
5 different computers to print one essay?
Okay, maybe it doesn't, but it's awfully close.
I've witnessed one of the teacher's computers. They were in the middle of trying to demonstrate something on the projector, and then their computer blue screened.
Oh, you think that's... Did you know that when Windows 98 was demonstrated for the first time to the public, guess what it got?
Oh dear, don't tell me that blue screen too.
Yes, it blue screened.
Oh my god!
Do you want to know what Bill Gates said at the keynote?
Okay, what did he say?
He said, I guess that's why we're not shipping Windows 98 yet.
Oh my god.
We know that wasn't his honest answer because when he still owns a good share of Microsoft, and I don't think Windows 11 is quite ready to ship yet. or
I don't
Windows
think
10.
Windows anything after 7 has been ready to ship.
I don't even think Windows 7 is ready to ship because I've had a bunch of stability issues on there too.
That's still the most that's still the most reliable version of Windows I've ever seen.
Windows
That and
8.1
XP.
is Windows 8.1 is fairly stable too, but it has that stupid UI.
Yeah, so still XP and 7, they are the most reliable versions I've ever seen. And
I haven't had
you're
a great
never going to see
experience
that
with
again.
Windows XP though. That's just because all I've used it on is my netbook. So
Yeah, the only reason why I haven't had the best experience with XP is just because I started using it at basically when it was being phased out.
yeah, there's a reason why I'm not a Windows user.
Man, I wish Dassault Systems would get SolidWorks available for the Mac.
So do I.
I love the hardware of my XPS. I hate the software.
So do I. I hate that soft. I hate Windows so much.
It doesn't have to be this bad. It
Well, it's
doesn't.
funny. You know how Windows 10 Windows is so bad to the point where even my mom, who still doesn't say that Windows is bad, she still uses a Mac as her primary computer.
Same with my coworker. He's been in the process of trying to get a gaming laptop, but that's because he's doing stuff on it that does. It's not gaming, but it's applications that does require the power. But at the end of the day, like especially for the past few weeks, we've had our worst run of Windows bugs ever. It even got to the point where it deleted half of the work he's ever done.
Oh dear.
And unfortunately, some of that work is an ongoing project. He is not happy.
And from your boss's controlling attitude, it sounds like I don't think he's happy either.
Oh, he's not either. And he doesn't think Windows is the best thing either, but he says that he'll take it over macOS because, well, actually, I can't even blame him for this. There's not really that many good engineering software apps available for macOS. Closest you'd get is Shaper 3D, but that's still even behind many aspects compared to SolidWorks. Funny thing is, he went to school with a Mac.
Yes, my dad also used Macs as his first job back in the late 1980s. Macintosh Pluses to be specific.
That's what that's what he used.
And yet my dad still refuses to go back to macOS.
Yeah.
The main system. macOS,
Uh,
the macOS hasn't actually changed that much since whatever system that was.
well, I'd argue it didn't really need to that much because it actually worked.
Well, I know macOS 10 has come out, but even the dock and the overall organization of macOS is still the same core that was in 1983 when it was introduced with the Apple Lisa.
Sometimes you don't really need to change that much. If it works, it works. The only people who do dumb stuff like that are Microsoft because they'll change something that we know has worked so well and they'll make it much worse. I'm just glad they finally reverted their decision about hiding Task Manager.
Oh, same here.
Yeah, with Windows
No,
11,
not
they
Windows
used to
either.
hide it in, you had to right-click on the Windows icon. Now you can right-click the taskbar, and the option to bring up Task Manager comes back. But still, the fact that they did something as dumb as that for the sake of... I don't know. sake of making it worse just because we can screw our customers like that. They're still going to buy it anyways.
I think Microsoft just takes advantage of the fact that people aren't going to really buy Macs because people have the general perception that they're too expensive. People aren't going to buy Chromebooks because they require internet. And so as a result, and people aren't going to buy PCs because they're generally more suited for gaming, and because a lot of developers optimize for Windows, even though it's crappy as a word I probably shouldn't say.
Oh. Yep. It's sad that this perception still exists. I'm still trying to make these videos that convince people otherwise. Try it. All right, put your bias and history aside and just give it another shot. Like even people who used to use Mac but switched to Windows. Give it a shot. Because like some people who used to use Mac but went to Windows, they left because of the hardware. In some aspects, you could argue that Mac hardware was not as good as what you could get with the PC side. But now, ever since the M1 transition happened, I don't know. PCs are kind of hard to recommend. Especially for price to performance and efficiency wise. So
I think even Jason T. Lewis from Painfully Honest Tech, I think even he tried to switch to a PC but failed.
Well, him being a music producer, to me, it really makes sense that it failed for him because just like how engineering apps are mostly exclusive to Windows, the majority of audio production software is exclusive to Mac.
That's because Apple makes a lot of the professional stuff like Logic Pro and GarageBand.
That and also all the other DAW developers, they choose to use Mac, like Pro Tools. It's another popular one. There's another one I can't remember, but yeah, the majority of the options are mostly found on Mac. Like, to my knowledge, the only professional grade DAW available for PC is Adobe Audition. But who likes that? Because it's Adobe. It crashes all the time.
And it's a subscription, probably.
That too. So.
Though I guess technically we can't blame Apple for making everything not subscription since Final Cut Pro on the iPad.
And Logic.
Oh, yes. Subscriptions are so stupid to the point where BMW actually didn't roll out the subscriptions for their cars for heated seats and heated steering wheels in the United States because of that.
Yeah, I mean, everyone hated it when Tesla, on the very cheapest Model 3, they software locked the heated seats. But they at least made it a one-time purchase upgrade. They don't force you to pay a subscription for it.
BMW did, however. Unless you bought it outright.
They did the same for CarPlay.
I think they do that for Remote Start even in the US.
Oh, subscriptions for Remote Start is very common in the industry. Toyota is infamous for this.
Oh, boy. My dad's very enthusiastic.
My car, it's standard.
My dad's very enthusiastic about Toyota developing their solid-state batteries, and I hope and I wonder what my dad's gonna think if he has to buy a subscription just to do a Remote Start.
I would not be excited for Toyota. I really would not, because I discovered something that I found very interesting.
What?
Toyota makes up a significant percentage of Japanese's economy. A very significant percentage.
I'm not surprised.
I believe they're hyping this stuff up to keep the cash coming in, because if Toyota goes down, Japan goes down.
I think Toyota is doing something for a very wrong purpose, since even though, sure, Okay, the Toyota solid state batteries, even if they had 900-mile ranges, they're still going to be using the CCS connector, as far as we know.
Yep.
They're relying on the
I'm surprised
opinions
Nissan switched.
and they're relying on the opinions of old people, which is that EVs have bad range.
That, and another thing too that drives me absolutely mad, and this is found in basically all Japanese electric cars. Their charging sucks.
Oh, that's not so. You know why I think Japanese automakers are in tech companies too have fallen?
I don't.
It's because of a lack of reproduction in Japan.
Okay.
And if old people keep running these car companies, then you think about it.
Yeah, I'd suppose they'd be slower to adapt. But yeah, this was just
It's probably
the
same
solid
reason.
state battery thing. I really think it's just hype. I think it's really just Toyota trying to bring in hype, because from what we've seen, they are coming into the electric vehicle space kicking and screaming. They do not want to do it.
Toyota even claims that EV is not the full answer. Is not the answer.
Well, the truth is, I don't say one specific technology alone is the answer to anything. I believe in having multiple technologies to bring benefits, as many options as possible. So that way you can choose the best option for you. But coming into this market kicking and screaming, especially when it's really taking off, it's not a good look for them. And I still can't believe how bad their charging performance is. I'm trying to elaborate what's really bad with it. It's not just because they choose pretty freaking slow speeds. They have this idea where you can only DC charge once, maybe twice. After that, they are going to slow your speeds down to an even more ridiculously slow speed. Every Japanese car does this.
Oh boy.
Yep. Toyota, Mazda, Nissan's Aria even. I don't know about Honda because we have yet to see any efforts from them aside from that one announcement. But yeah, they are coming into this market kicking and screaming.
I think Toyota, I think, is a stupid EV. Toyota, I think, you want to know another way I know Nissan is coming into the market kicking and screaming?
What else?
They're getting rid of the Titan truck.
The Nissan Titan?
Yep, it was their big truck line. It was their truck line. Their pickup
Well, that's
truck
had
line.
poor sales here in the U.S., actually, so it doesn't surprise me that much.
That makes me so mad because I'm like, dude, why can't they just? I know they're making it, discontinuing it to make EV as part of their EV transition, but Tesla's got the Cybertruck, which has got a lot of hype going for it. Rivian has
Very
their
true.
trucks. There's the Ford F-150 Lightning.
That's a very popular one, too.
And Nissan decides out of the blue, just nope. We're gonna discontinue we are discontinuing the Titan because we don't want to make it electric for whatever reason. Even though we totally could if we wanted to.
Well, I guess I can't fault them on one aspect, and it's the batteries. The amount of batteries that, GM has recently released to the media access to the Silverado EV. And let's just say they're using an extremely large battery. It's like double the size of what you'll find in a Tesla Model S.
Maybe this is why
It's not cheap.
maybe this is why Toyota is This could be why Toyota is developing solid state batteries, is because they do have a genuine purpose, and they're gonna reduce all the slave labor that's needed for the elements in the batteries, like cobalt. But will also greatly decrease cost because you're not having to deal with many manual components. But still, there's the issue, or at least it'll decrease cost at first, but still, I don't know if I trust Toyota on this one.
No, I would not. I just would not.
And what's sad is that I think people are going to actually trust Toyota on this one.
You'd be surprised how many people waited to buy electric until Toyota came out with the BZ4X.
I think people.
I feel so bad for those people.
I think Toyota's going to become the Microsoft of EVs, because they're going to go along the general consumer perspective, and as a result, people are just going to wind up not having a good experience.
Well, at least there's so many other options that eventually, I have a feeling automotive transportation is something that people do not like to mess around with that much. The reason why a lot of people stick with Toyota is because they've known that they work so well. And the reason why they'll go back to them is because when they're going to spend 5 figures on a vehicle, they don't want to try something new, or they don't want to try anything that's different, because that could be 20 grand down the toilet, maybe more. 20, 30 grand down the toilet, maybe more. So to them, Toyota is the safe option. But I would think, as once people discover that Toyota is not doing a great job in this, and that there are better options out there, like the Toyota effect, I'm going to call it, the Toyota effect exists with Tesla.
Yep.
There are people who will not buy any other electric car aside from a Tesla, because Tesla has nailed it and they trust Tesla more than anybody else.
The only thing that I don't like about Tesla is that they don't have CarPlay.
Yeah, I'm going to miss that eventually when I get my Tesla, but
that's why I might actually not get a Tesla, just for that reason, since everybody else has CarPlay. And something that I wanted to mention is that Chevy's coming out with their new crossover known as the Trax, which I think is trying to become the replacement with the Bolt, but I don't think it's electric. That has CarPlay.
Actually, I've got news on that. Well, the Trax has been out for a while, a long time. But actually, no, GM has announced, despite that we thought that they were going to cancel the Bolt, that whole saga, they're still going to end production of this generation, but they're going to bring it back with their Ultium technology. They're not completely getting rid of it like they've mentioned.
That'll be good for GM.
Very good. And all it took was Kyle Connor to actually fly out to Detroit, rent a Chevy Bolt from the airport, and drive all the way to GM's headquarters just to yell at Mary, "Hey, don't end production of the Bolt!" He literally took a whole day just to fly out to Detroit and do that.
That's hilarious.
Good move, though, because, hey, I guess he technically saved the Bolt.
To be fair, a lot of people didn't like the Bolt, like my dad.
To me, the only thing to not like about it is the charging. Well, the DC charging. The AC charging is perfectly fine. It's the DC charging that's not. But for the price tag of it, how can you fault it? Yeah. I genuinely was considering one. And then, obviously, the biggest factor that ruled me out on that.
Yeah. That's the same reason why even if I do buy my next car might not be a Tesla.
Yeah, because you've said that you were looking into Ford's future vehicles for NACS, right?
I'm curious. If Ford came out with something like a Fusion or or if they made a Mustang sedan that used the NACS connector, then I might be interested in that.
Yeah, I don't understand why Ford got rid of the Fusion, because I see them
So do
everywhere. Yeah, Ford likes to pretend that these vehicles didn't sell. I see them everywhere. It doesn't matter
I see
where
Buick
I go.
sedans everywhere too.
Same, they're extremely popular in my area.
I mean, even you have one, or your family.
I
has
do.
two.
And I honestly love my car. It's weird for me to say this, but I actually love my car, and I'm not in a love-hate relationship like I was with Red Fox. It's a weird feeling. But,
Yeah, if
yeah.
the only reason why I'm not actually gonna, other car brands I'm considering for my next car, if one that several years down the line, I'm not going to do GM because they have some fishy financial deals going on, and they seem to have a bit of a relationship that's a little too close to the U.S. government.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame you.
Eh.
I mean, supposedly they were being dubbed the leader in the the EV transition.
That's not true.
Well, to one extent, you could say the Bolt made a huge impact, but still not as huge as Tesla. So I guess, yeah, on the non-Tesla side, yeah, GM probably was, because the Bolt it's a very popular choice.
Now Ford is seeming to take that reign though with the F-150 Lightning.
Very true. They've actually done a solid job with the F-150 and the Mach-E. Despite that, they have some weird charging curves, but that's the biggest thing that I focus on, because range, you discover it's actually not that important.
Yep, exactly.
It's all about the charging. And Ford has done, they're not perfect at it, but they've been putting such a big emphasis on actually trying to give you the best experience. Like, they're one of the few automakers out there who offers plug and charge.
What's that?
It's basically the... Ooh, funny. I can demonstrate this now.
Oh, no.
Yes, everyone. I got some things to show you. So basically, the way plug and charge works is you pull up to a charger, you grab the cable, open up the charge port, and you just plug in.
How do you do it on other cars?
That's all you have. This is what you do with Tesla. You just walk up to the charger, you grab the handle, and you plug in the car. That's it. It just starts charging.
Do you have to configure, press another button on most other EVs?
With most other EVs, you have to pull out your phone to activate the charger or swipe your credit card. But with plug and charge, the billing information is in the vehicle, and it processes that payment when you plug it in. Hence, plug and charge.
Much better.
Yeah, Tesla introduced this. And basically, the only vehicles you'll find on the road today with plug and charge are, for now, Porsche, the Taycan. I believe some of their recent Audis have it. And they say that their Volkswagen products are going to get it in a software update. They're working on bringing that to that. So basically, Volkswagen, Audi, Porsche, that group. Ford, they offer it too, and Lucid.
And we all know Lucid's a joke.
Yeah. Well, at least in the charging game, but... So, yes, guys, I really did just buy a charging port from a Model X.
Doesn't the paint chip off the Lucids, though?
It doesn't do that, but it's still thin, to the point where if you do have to correct it, you can't, because it's too thin.
Oh, yeah, that's the big issue.
That's the issue with the paint. that and their body panels are not very well aligned, but the interior is actually solid. It drives well. Assuming you drive it right, you can actually get 500 miles of range on that thing. It's extremely efficient. And, well, the charging curve leaves to be desired, but it'll pull a maximum of 350 kilowatts from, well, assuming the charger works. And I've seen a Lucid do it, so it doesn't happen all the time. Again, it's not about the range of the vehicle, it's all about the charging, and that's what Lucid just can't get their heads over.
Exactly. That's what people care about the most is charging.
Mm-hmm. And actually, it's also influenced my decision on the Tesla that I want to buy. I was debating, because now I've seen Andrew Erickson, Talos of Tech, Talos of EV. I've seen him take road trips in his standard range Model 3. It's fine. But like, if what I'm going to do as a future job is test out chargers and all that, standard range Model 3 isn't going to cut it, because that vehicle will only peak at around 170 kilowatts. And the reason for that is battery size, battery capacity. Basically, the rest of their models, except the 4680 Model Ys, they all charge at 250 kilowatts peak. So that's even influenced my decision on which Tesla I'm buying.
What Tesla do you think it'll be then?
Still leaning on the Model 3 long range.
Oh, that.
Because I don't need a Model Y. I do not need a crossover. They're dumb anyway, so why bother? But yeah, the long range Model 3 is the next one in line that'll charge at 250 kilowatt, and well, it's yeah, pretty much that. It's either that, or I've also been debating on, depending on how long Stardust lasts, maybe saving up for potentially a Model S. Because there's some things about the Model 3 that it does bother me. Like, everything's all in one display, including the speedometer. I don't like that.
Oh, that would drive me insane.
Yeah, Model S has a gauge cluster for that. And because they can put that driver, like the autopilot visualizations and all the driver information in that center gauge cluster, oh, it is so nice to see that huge map take up that 17-inch display. So, from that aspect, it's making me want to go to the Model S.
That'll be nice once I get CarPlay put in my Mercedes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also debating on whether my next car will just be another Mercedes sedan, since there's one of the few makers that are still making them. And they'll again be on the NACS architecture. You'll use NACS charging.
Very true. I'm glad Mercedes made that decision. It's another reason why I say buy a Mercedes, not a Lucid.
And other car manufacturers to consider are, I'm considering are if Chrysler showed more of an interest in their vehicles, then I'd be more tempted to buy a Chrysler, since I really love their styling. Because
I personally wouldn't, because they are notorious for reliability problems.
And my grandfather also used to work at Chrysler.
Yeah, I still want to buy one because they are notorious for reliability problems.
Oh, yes. My grandmother's 2006 Jeep Grand Cherokee actually just broke down today, or had an issue.
That goes to show my point. Oh, yeah.
There's a reason
There's some designs that Chrysler makes that I do like, but design can't be the only buying decision.
Oh, yes, that's why. Oh, on both of our Chrysler vehicles that my family had being the 300, our old 300 and our old Pacifica, both of them basically became unusable in their final stages.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and you've seen the old Grand Caravans and Town and Countries with the very rounded, bubbly versions of those vans. You've seen them drive around, all rusted out, falling apart.
Yes.
My dad once had to get a loaner because when the car that me, my mom, and my two sisters were in, we got rear-ended by a high school student who had a learning disability, and because the cop knew him personally, he wouldn't ticket him. Well, because the only way we could get him penalized was if we filed an insurance claim against him. Well, we had to take it in for repairs. The loaner we got was a Dodge Grand Caravan, that 1990s Grand Caravan, and it was falling apart.
What kind of... Just curious, what learning disability did the... The thing that drives me nuts about student drivers, speaking of that, is I always hate how they put student driver, please be patient or something on that, since it makes you wonder, okay, how bad of a driver is this really?
Usually they're actually not too bad. That's what I found. They're usually not too bad. Because it's, for the most part, it's actually a little easier than one would think. It's just keep the vehicle in the lane lines and stop when you have to.
Yeah, that's why I don't put that sticker on my car. And also because I don't want other drivers to think I'm a student driver. I want them to actually... Because I don't want them knowing that much about my personal life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I still censor the license plate in my videos on Stardust because I don't want people tracing that information back to me. Because that would bring up my legal name.
That'll be something I'm very interested to learn. I'm so interested to learn your real name.
I've been debating on telling you at some point, actually.
Please, you don't have to.
I'll save it for a special occasion. How's that?
All right. Well, speaking of other, well, I guess we still have other topics to cover, and we've been recording for over 2 hours, so I guess we need to get back on topic.
Yeah, I guess so.
But Hyundai, Kia, GM, Hyundai/Kia, GM, Mercedes, BMW, Stellantis, Stellantis, Chrysler, and Honda are getting together to create a new reliable public charging network for North America.
Quote unquote reliable. We have no clue what they're doing in terms of that yet.
They're supposedly going to create that.
I'm hoping they do because we've seen it happen before in Europe with the Ionity charging network. And it was off to a rocky start, but at this point, I'd say it's rock solid.
And so maybe, just maybe...
But that's assuming they all pick the right charging hardware. I'm going to be so mad if they pick Signet again.
Oh, they might, judging by their love of quality, it's probably going to be Signet.
They better not do Signet because they've been having such massive issues. I still can't believe the Signet surge is still going on. It's been how many months? And yet the Signet surge is still going on.
I don't think it's called a surge anymore. I think it's called Signet's normal behavior.
No, it's still the Signet surge. And no, that's not typically how Signet... Before that surge came into play... For the most part, Signet's major issues were only software reliability. They just could not software configure their chargers. But no, now they've got this massive hardware issue going in, and sadly it's affecting all of their first and second gen units, which I want to say make up over half of the nation's chargers for Electrify America. Because, yeah, like... your general area, the closest EA station to you, Signet. First gen Signet, even.
Wait, did you look that up?
I look at PlugShare. You can just tell by looking at the dispensers.
Hey, editor Alpha DeWolf here. Yeah, we said some stuff, and you guys are not allowed to hear this stuff. And this right here is where the stuff used to be. Alright, now that stuff has been said, back to the show.
All right. Well, shall we cover the last episode of this last topic of this episode since?
Sure. One sec. I gotta figure out how to deactivate screen sharing right there.
All right. I have some stuff to grab for this one.
Oh, right. More tech reveals.
If you watch my YouTube videos, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Okay, let's see. Can I turn on a light and not blind everyone? Okay, this isn't too bad, I think. Alright, I'm gonna have to work on lighting at this new setup because this is not going well.
When I initially moved my desk to be on the opposite side of my room, I had to change it back to this. I had to change it to this side because I couldn't get lighting to work over there.
Yeah.
Alright, this is the first phone, which I already have a Razr, so this isn't too exciting, but it's a blue one, and it's on AT&T. Pretty good. I also have this Kyocera flip phone, which I really love the design of this. It's from '08, but it seems to have a floppy hinge.
Yep.
This is actually an Android phone, believe it or not, from 2010.
Oh! I
This is not
recognize
Galaxy-
that!
This is not a Galaxy S1 though. This is one of their cheaper ones.
Oh yeah, I know that. But I've seen that phone before.
This is pretty similar to the Samsung Reality, which I also have somewhere in here. If I can find it. Yeah, this is similar to the Reality. In fact, this is very similar to the Reality.
Oh yeah. Wow, they do look similar.
That's because they're from the same year and literally by the same company.
Yep.
But that one works fine, but does have a small line going through the screen. So that's pretty unfortunate. But then I have an interesting phone. Now this is not now. You think I would just be able to find out all the information about this phone and immediately know what this is, right?
One would think.
I have no information on this phone other than that, from what I've been able to translate from Chinese, this is a Jitong regular model phone.
Yep, never even heard of it.
Neither have I. I have no idea how old this is. Because on one hand it has an antenna like this. But on the other hand it looks to be in very good condition for being old.
It's got to be a 2000s.
Maybe it's newer than that, but...
No, I wouldn't say it's newer than that. They would have ditched antennas like that by then. Last time I saw a pop-out antenna was of my parents' flip phones from the early 2000s.
Same here. So I have no clue what this is, but this interestingly does have a torch on it, which makes me think it's a little newer.
A torch?
Flashlight.
Oh, okay. I want to say, hold on. That thing's got a fire starter on it?
No, that's what Mr. Who's the Boss refers to it as.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose there are other parts of the world that refer to the flashlight as a torch.
Yeah, I forgot I'm not watching a British YouTuber.
Yep. I've discovered I'm accidentally starting to pick up on some Australian slang. I think I've been watching too much Bluey.
I'm starting to pick up... Sometimes I think I pick up on too much foreign slang too, because sometimes I say this in my videos for word variation, but sometimes I'll use the word socket instead of port like they do in the UK.
Yeah, I suppose they refer to it as sockets.
Yeah, because Mr. Who's the Boss isn't mentioned at them in sockets quite a whole lot, but Tecmo does.
I almost called a gas station a petrol station. And you'd think me being the car guy here, you'd think I'd be able to still say gas station, but no. I guess I watched too much Bluey to the point where I'm now saying petrol station. Oh gosh.
Jeez, that's why.
I also just find it fascinating that I don't know why. I just find the word petrol to be fascinating. But oh gosh.
Even I sometimes watch Peaceavery and I don't pick up on much Australian slang.
Yeah.
So I guess he doesn't say too much Australian slang other than the mention of all the eucalyptus oil he uses. Do you watch his videos or no?
I've watched one, but I never really got that. I never came back.
How come?
I'm not too sure. For one, I don't get to watch as much YouTube as I wish I would. That, and also because tech news has been so dry as of the past how many months, it's resulted in me just getting bored with the content altogether. That, and I don't like saying this because I'm still a tech enthusiast, but as of right now, there's not much new tech coming out that's I find exciting. I'm finding that a lot of it seems to have peaked to the point where any new feature is maybe just a luxury, but it's not really anything game-changing. And
Honestly,
despite that one might think Vision Pro would be the next game-changing thing, I don't see it.
Out yet.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's true. I haven't given it a shot yet. I'm actually debating testing it out, like actually dropping the $3,500 to test it out, because I'm the tech enthusiast in the family, and I should be the one giving all these things a shot before I just write it off. But even I don't think that this Vision Pro thing is the future.
I think I might test it out as I still want to be an early adopter of it. But I'm going to wait until later in 2024 to do it. Because
I'd probably return it.
For one, I have to wait. For one, I have to save I'll keep it because if it fails, then it'll be worth a lot of money in my collection.
For me, I've got much other important things to save up for, and not including things like Model X taillight reflector for a chargeport door. I'm talking about other things like, say, a house in North Carolina, or I still want that Tesla. I'm not gonna lie, but
Or
just
the reason why I'm waiting until later in 2024 to test out the Apple Vision Pro is because, first of all, I want to see what other big tech enthusiasts think of it first before I try it out for myself, and secondly,
you'd have to drop $3,500 on it too.
Yeah, I have to save up for a new MacBook first. And on top of that, I'm not. My iPhone 14 Pro is only 128 gigabytes, so my confidence in it is starting to decrease a little bit.
Yeah, so.
And my Apple Watch Series 7's battery life, I noticed, hasn't been too great.
Really?
No, it hasn't been the greatest, though. Checking battery health just to see what that is, since I know Tabby's has gotten really bad.
Mine's still fairly decent.
My battery health, yep, it's at 97 still.
Yours is at 97. What's mine at? I haven't checked in a while. Even though I genuinely just do not care. But what the heck? Let's see where it's at.
No, it was 100 a few months ago.
Oh, 97. So much have just dropped. Was at 99 earlier, but oh well. Again, I don't care. At this point, I just stopped caring about battery health. Like, even in electric cars, because I discovered that the way that they're degradation works. You experience the majority of it actually the first few days you own the vehicle, but as it ages, the amount it's degrading slows.
All right, well, should we wrap this episode up because somebody really has to go to the bathroom?
Fair enough. And how long is the? Oh, gosh, I have almost a 3-hour show to edit.
At least I was wearing that. There's a reason why I was wearing earbuds.
Oh, thank you for making it easier for me.
All right. Well, as always, thank you all for watching another episode of the iTunes Fanboy Podcast. As always, I'm Teddy Maggart from the iTunes Fanboy.
My name is Alpha DeWolf from the Random Alpha.
And as always, we are signing out for now, and peace out.
See ya.